all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live at the Double Feature Picture Show. I'm your host, Dean, joined by the madly dancing David. David, how are you doing?
I'm alive with the sound of music, Dean. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. So, what are the movies we're watching this week?
Well, this week we have the classic double feature of Little Shop of Horrors and the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ooh, some nice campy musicals. Throwback to the 1950s and 60s. All right. What are these movies about?
Well, to dive right deep into those sing along log lines, a nerdy orphan who lives in the basement of a flower shop comes across a strange and unusual plant that flips his life upside down. And a man and his fiancée knock on the door of the strange manor on the hill to use the telephone, then have a hard time coming out.
Ooh,
Ooh.
all right.
A little salacious, a little scary, a little spooky, a little song and dance.
We'll take those. All right. So, you've seen any of these movies before?
Yeah, I've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the classic midnight Shadowcast sing along showing. We had one at a discount theater in my hometown one night, and me and a group of friends went. We had a lot of fun, you know. I'd never seen the movie before, but tried to participate because I was aware. I think my first encounter actually with knowing about what the cult following of Rocky Horror Picture Show was in what's that book turned into a movie, Perks of Being a Wallflower. Um,
Mm.
that was where I first kind of found out about it. My mom actually had a book when I was a kid about the production. It's like a production book of the Rocky Horror Picture Show where they show a lot of like notes and photos and notes from the director and interview a bunch of people. One of these kind of fan books, you know, that you would buy at Barnes and Noble, and that was where I first learned about the movie. And it always looked terrifying on the page as a kid, and little did I know that seeing it as a young adult, I would be delighted and well, interested. I mean, it's very it's I find its culture to be more interesting than the movie itself.
Yeah, because there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of mythology around Rocky Horror Picture Show and like that cult fandom following of it.
Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking about it, like Rocky Horror Picture Show was like the first midnight movie, right? It was the first one where everybody was like, "Oh, we're gonna go, we're gonna yell at the screen and have a good time watching the movie."
Yeah, you know, I would be interested to see what the history of like the Midnight Movie is, but I'm sure this is one of the first ones where like fan involvement became super important to the experience.
Without Rocky Horror, we wouldn't have the room. All right, and Little Shop of Horrors, you ever seen that one
I
before?
haven't seen that one before. I know it is one of your favorites.
Yes, that is it is a classic at my house. My sister loves this movie, my brother loves this movie. We've watched it a bunch of times since we were kids.
Yeah, a lot of the oh, I think it's the Second City people, right? From Canada, that whole comedy troupe with John Candy and Rick Moranis and all these people.
Mm.
Let me see if I'm getting that correct. Yeah, Second City. That was the name of the group. Um, yeah, it was kind of interesting to see all of the familiar faces in this one because I wasn't really aware of Little Shop of Horrors before watching it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I kind of knew that it was like this weird little musical. That's about all I knew.
Yeah.
And after watching it, I can say I'm a thorough fan. It's a pretty enjoyable flick.
Indeed it is, indeed it is. So, which one would you like to jump in and talk about first?
Well, let's start with Little Shop of Horrors. I think
All
that's
right.
a good place to begin to warm up the crowd for the second midnight feature. Um, I guess to open the movie, we start with a wonderful three gal song.
Greek chorus.
Yes, sure. Just talking about the Little Shop of Horrors. You know, it's a weird shop on Skid Row and unnamed
Run by
city. I think it is. I don't think they're in New York or anything specific, right?
Nah, they're just supposed to be in some big like kind of rundown city, really.
Hmm.
Like it could be like Chicago, LA, New York, and any of them really. A place where a guy named Mr. Mushnik could own a failing flower shop is the criteria for this.
Right. Uh, and then we finally center upon our main character, um, played by Rick Moranis, the nerdy little son of a gun. I feel like he also is somebody that like I don't know. He's a huge name, right? And I just don't remember him in a lot of things. And maybe that's I know Spaceballs. I know this. Uh,
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
okay, yeah, I Shrunk the Kids. That's actually another thing.
Um,
He's in
he was
Ghostbusters
on.
in like a side character bit. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, he was. This is weird when you think about it. It's like Rick Moranis, like during the 1980s, was in a bunch of stuff, and then he just kind of stopped.
yeah.
Which I mean, I know why he stopped. I think his wife passed away, and he went to and took care of his kids. He was
Oh.
like, I don't need to be famous, so I'm gonna take care of my kids.
Oh.
But I'm like, I know, really sad, but like, good on him. He chose his kid over fame. But we need more Rick Moranis in our movies.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm actually surprised to see that he's only 67. He's a pretty young guy. Wow.
Really? Oh,
That
wait, 67. This movie came out in 86, so he was only like, how old was he
well, he
when
was
this movie
born
came out?
53, so uh, my math is bad. I guess he would be 35. I think that's what that is, right?
53. So in 7 years, 1960, he'd be
I think that's 33, right?
727. Yeah, he'd be like 30 something.
Okay. He looks young for his age for in this movie. He does look pretty, babyish. I guess is
Oh
how I
yeah.
would put it. Which I guess is the point of the character. I don't know. It's too early in the morning to do math.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
For everybody who knows, we do this podcast like right after we like wake up. We set up our computers and we do this. So
yeah.
yeah,
Early bird gets the worst of it.
yeah.
Little Rick Moranis.
Plays Seymour,
Yeah, Seymour, and he lives in the basement of a flower shop. He was an orphan taken in by the owner. Um,
which is the biggest Jewish stereotype businessman, Mr. Mushnik.
right on top of Seymour. I mean, it's like, but whatever.
Yeah.
This is his little life.
He pines over his coworker Audrey.
Who's the most mousy 1950s secretary stereotype you could probably think of. Um,
It is true. Yeah.
Boyfriend to an abusive man. Obviously, she comes in with the shiner upon first shot, and it's, I don't know. I think from the get go, I'm going to be fascinated throughout the plot with what the fascination with the 1950s is here. Um, I mean, it's like aside from the both of these movies obviously are an homage, I guess you could say, let alone maybe a little bit of parody of the B movies of the 40s and 50s. And I don't know. I think Rocky Horror runs the gambit of parodying it, but this movie seems more interested in the general 1950s rather than just the movies themselves. Because, I mean, when you think about it, there's the space element and there's the monster element, and then that's about it. I don't feel, well, maybe like the murder kind of thing, but there weren't a whole
Mm,
lot of like, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there are a whole lot of B movie slashers in the 50s. That
not
would have been against the Hays
particularly.
Code, I guess. So, I mean, either way, um, pretty quickly we learn of a mysterious bolt from outer space, as I took it, that
They
went,
beam down Audrey to the giant jazzy evil plant.
yeah. And I don't know what I was doing in the middle of uh, the naming of the plant, but for like 45% of this movie, I was sitting there like, why the hell did they name it Audrey 2? That's the most random name. I didn't put two and two together. That, uh,
What?
yeah, I don't know. I was just like, okay, Audrey 2. And then I remembered that her name was Audrey. I think I was mostly focused on her voice, so that's why I was sitting there like, not realizing her name was Audrey. I was just like, God, this girl's voice is annoying.
Yeah,
Um,
that's something that if anybody goes out and watches movies, like prep yourself a little bit because the actress who plays Audrey, she played Audrey in the stage production of this on the like off Broadway showing, and she makes a very interesting choice with the voice.
Yeah, I
It's
mean
like
it's
this,
very. Who's gonna do the impression? That's all we can do.
not it.
Um,
Nose goes, sir. It's on you.
I'm trying to think of a line that could be said. It's something in the lines of this. It's just super. There's a lisp. There's a lot of high pitched
It's
whine. There, you
it
know.
it has like a weird like New Yorky kind of sound.
Yeah, there's something that sniffs of New York when they talk about this, despite the fact that Skid Row is in a Los Angeles location.
Yeah.
But whatever, you know.
Which reminds me, like they're okay. So their Skid Row looks way nicer than our Skid Row. Like I wish I we had this Skid Row. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it just looks like the sanitation department needs to get in there with a pair of gloves. But
Yeah.
um, that's another thing I actually, speaking of the setting, liked about this movie is that the Broadwayness of the show translated into the movie. And I know we talked about a couple episodes ago, Do the Right Thing, and it using that to its advantage, the whole stage playness of the setting.
Yeah, where it's very isolated. We don't really go a lot of places. Very
Yeah.
few like actual sets.
And while I don't know if that one was intentional or not, I definitely felt like this was intentional and actually very much enjoyed the way that it did that.
Oh yeah.
Because, while yes, it probably made things cheaper and um, easier to shoot, it also kind of made the movie easier to follow, I guess is how I would put it. Not that it's a super hard movie to follow. I mean, it's a musical, but,
Yeah.
my pea brain. Um,
So Audrey too. Wow, what's the connection?
I don't know. I mean, randomness. Why don't we move on before my brain farts all over all this episode?
Yeah. So basically, what happens after that is Seymour. Well, the flower shop is failing. Like it is on its last leg.
Yeah,
And Seymour's like, well, we could take the shop in a new direction and we might be able to get some business by showing off like this. And he goes to his basement room apartment thing, comes out with Audrey 2, this strange and unusual plant from beyond the stars,
hmm.
and he puts it in the window, and all of a sudden it just revitalizes the business.
Yeah. There's
Apparently
this.
Audrey 2 is magic and can save dying businesses. So
Yeah, there's I think an element of telepathy or hypnosis going on with the plant, and or maybe aphrodisiac. I don't know what's going on, but customers start pouring in an oddly off-putting way. But it does save the business. I mean, they rake in the cash, and they get a little publicity along the way because everybody wants to know what's going on with the plant.
yeah.
And, well, little Seymour soon realizes that the plant is well, a little thirsty.
Very thirsty. He discovers that the only way to feed the plant is by giving it little bits of human blood. It's the only thing that seems to like nourish it and make it grow. And Audrey too grows really fast. I don't know what the timeline of this movie is. Like, I can't imagine like it's more than like a couple of weeks, really.
Yeah, I'd say a few months maybe. Um,
Yeah.
Something around that line.
Yeah, so in that course, it goes from Audrey to being like, it can fit inside of a coffee can to being like, it fills up a whole like
Corner of the
it,
store, yeah.
corner of the store. Yeah. And by the end of the movie, it's like, fills up a whole like studio apartment. This thing is huge. And
Massive.
he feeds it massive. But after Seymour finds out that, oh, it'll only drink blood, he also finds out that maybe little drops of blood aren't going to be good enough to feed something this big.
Yeah, at a certain point, it gets, we'll say, is bigger than humans, and that logically leads to the fact that I was thirsty for his blood before. Well, where do you think he's going to get a large enough supply of blood to do it? He's got to kill. And there's musical numbers throughout this movie where they finally figure out their first kill, and it's going to be poor old Steve Martin. Uh,
Well, poor old Steve Martin, but in
yeah,
this movie, he's a monster.
a pretty big bastard in the form of Oren Scrivello, DDS. I actually really like that little joke that they run with, that he's
That he's
a
this
sadist dentist.
sadistic
Yeah.
dentist. Yep.
Um, though I gotta say, Steve Martin should not play a bebop motorcycle man.
What?
I don't know. I was just sitting there the whole time thinking about like the accents he always does and how they're always kind of like overdone. And I know I'm criticizing like a comedy genius great right here, but uh,
Honestly, I thought Steve Martin looked like he was having so much fun
yeah, it
in this
is super
movie.
fun. And they even do this fun little detour between Steve Martin and fucking can't remember his name right now, and that's stupid because he's also the biggest guy in the world. Bill Murray,
Yes.
who plays a masochistic uh, patron of his practice. A fun little joke. I thought for some reason, when I saw him in the casting, thought he played a much bigger role in the movie, but that's
Hmm.
cool. I'll take some Bill Murray where I can get him.
Yeah. Dude, you know this is the only movie Steve Martin and Bill Murray have been in together?
Really?
Yeah. It's really weird because you'd think they'd be in a lot more movies, right?
Yeah, or at least like something where that. Well, yeah, I guess that's kind of interesting. But they are kind of like two. How would I
They're
put
on
it?
two opposite ends of like the comedy shtick spectrum.
Well, yeah, because Bill Murray's kind of deadpan, Steve Martin's kind of silly, but they're also two giants. I can understand how overshadowing each other would be kind of. I don't mean that they would intend to, but that one overshadowing the other would happen based on the content of what they're playing on. And
Yeah.
this is kind of. I think this is the perfect place to do it in that sense because Steve Martin gets to play the silly rocker. Um, Whereas, Bill Murray just gets to do his deadpan thing while being overtly tongue in cheek. It worked.
Yeah.
So, good job. Papa's proud of you.
Exactly.
uh,
The guys over at SNL are really happy you guys, got through this.
yeah.
But
But
yeah.
Seymour walks into the disturbance, and gun,
Well,
gun and
I
Jack.
almost forgot. We should preface this that this evil dentist sadist is Audrey's boyfriend and he's very abusive. So Seymour's like, you know what? Yeah. So he is he justifies it to himself a little bit before he decides to whack him.
Yeah, that is actually a really good motivation for all this because that's what they outline in the song. Yeah, like I said, it's early.
Yeah.
but yeah, so the Oren has obviously been kind of wailing on Audrey as of late, and Seymour has had enough of it. He's going to feed him to the beast. Comes in gun and jacket, and Oren's laughing gas addiction kind of gets to him before Seymour can pull the trigger. And that's how he dies. He dies of an overdose, I guess, of laughing gas.
Which is okay, because he puts on this weird like mask contraption before he goes and like does is gonna do his thing with Seymour, and that's when Seymour has the opportunity to pull the gun out. But when Steve Martin turns around wearing that weird fucking like gas mask tank thing, like first I was like, that looks ridiculous. And then I thought about it, I'm like, somebody's probably made this and put weed in the tank.
I don't know. I mean, he's a goner. That's all I gotta say.
He is.
Um,
Dies right away.
so then Seymour obviously has to drag the body across Skid Row back to the shop, chops him up. But as he's, preparing dinner, a bystander witnesses what's going on in the form of Mushnik, seeing him through a fence post. But the flower gets fed, and he starts to grow and grow and grow into a wonderful young plant with the golden voice of a black man. Um,
He's got a really good singing voice for not having lungs. Got a real good singing voice. Great set of pipes.
yeah, I believe the voice, if my page loads correctly, is done by Levi Stubbs.
He's from the Four Tops, I believe.
Yes, wonderful. Um, so we move on. Obviously, the plant needs more and more, uh, and he continues to feed him, pieces of Orin as the shop continues to gain a little notoriety. It's kind of interesting, while reciting the plot here, I'm feeling like we were already in like the halfway point of the movie, right? And
Yeah.
it has not been that long, and this movie's only 90 minutes, and I don't know what it is. This is, I guess, the thing about this week is that both these movies as musicals really felt like they didn't take that long, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
these were really breezy watches. Like in honesty, like they did not feel very long.
yeah, and I don't, there's just something about it that feels off because I feel like we're like really breezing through things, but really by this point, this is all that's happened. Um, the
Yeah, I
musical
mean we
numbers
could
kind of
go
take up, you know, a
yeah,
lot of
we can go
time.
through every like song as like plot points, but like, you know, they're just music. They're just musical numbers. Very some of them only like express a few like elements that we're just telling you. Like, there's a whole musical number explaining how Steve Martin's a dentist.
Yeah, I
You
don't know.
know, we're
It's very interesting.
yeah,
Um, and this is another thing that I think I'm going to get stuck on, and maybe it will be a little bit of a tangent, but is a little bit shocking to the point where I need to bring it up now. Is I didn't know this movie was a remake.
yeah. It was a remake of a 1960s Roger Corman horror movie. I believe it was actually Jack Nicholson's first movie or one of his first movies.
Yeah, only an hour and 13 too. So if this is breezy, I mean, imagine what that is.
Oh yeah.
But very interesting. I mean, Roger Corman, first of all, one of the giants of that era.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Without him, we wouldn't have New Hollywood without Roger Corman.
yeah,
I'm pretty secure in saying that.
I think that's a fair statement, and I'm interested to know, have you seen the original? I guess as we'll put it.
I I think I tried to watch some of it a long, long time ago, but either the copy I had was like pretty shit tier or like it wasn't complete because I think I only watched like 20, 30 minutes of it before like I stopped for some reason. I can't really remember any of it.
Well, I mean, it's
I do know it wasn't a musical.
I
It was like a
encourage
straight
anybody
horror
to,
movie.
yeah, I encourage anybody to go see it. I mean, it's free on Tubi right now, apparently. So go check that out if you have some extra, if you have an extra hour to kill.
Hey,
um,
you could do something worse in an hour.
yeah, made on $28,000 to $34,000. That's amazing. And you had Jack Nicholson in it too. I mean, come on.
That's pretty good.
Um, well, I guess to get back to the present, like we said, the plant is growing because he's being fed dentist, and sooner or later, Audrey and Seymour get together after the cops stop sniffing around about Warren's disappearance.
Mm.
Musical number there is kind of the heartwarming end to Act One. Um,
Also, suddenly Seymour is like, I don't know. I love that song. That's a great love song. I have no idea why I love it so much, but it's good.
very good performance. Do you know if they the actors actually perform the songs or if they had dubbed singers?
This one, all the actors perform their own songs.
Wow, then Rick Moranis,
Oh yeah,
great
no, I'm
voice.
very surprised, right? Because Rick Moranis does not look like somebody who could like
Sing.
sing all that well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is the actress who played Audrey. She played Audrey in the original, Broadway whatever. So she's like a Broadway like theater actress.
Yeah, she's perfect for it. Ellen Green,
Yeah.
beautiful voice.
But in Suddenly Seymour, if you ever notice, the accent drops a little bit when she's like just belting notes all the time, and then you realize like, oh wait, you can actually like sing, and this you can talk in any way that's not that fucking
Oh yeah,
voice.
it kind of comes back in during the lower, kind of softer notes, but when she belts
Mhm.
it, she's belting it, and good for her. She should.
Yeah,
That's Broadway for you.
that's good.
But to begin Act Two of the movie, as this kind of has like a Act One, Act Two kind of stage style to it, Mushnik reveals what he's seen to Seymour, um, and now Seymour kind of has his back against the wall until Mushnik has his
Mushnik,
back against the plant.
it's true. Mushnik says that he'll let Seymour go as long as Seymour tells him how to feed and take care of the plant. And then
No, he'll tell
Seymour's
you.
like, well, I'll tell you. You just gotta water it, and feed it. Well, feed it what, Seymour? Feed it you. And then Audrey eats Mr. Mushnick
Big bite.
whole. Oh yeah, one bite, one go, all he needed.
Yeah. Um,
And then after that, Seymour becomes uber famous
yeah,
because I guess he's the only one who runs the shop now.
he, I guess, is the shop owner. There isn't really an investigation into the disappearance of Mr. Mushnik, so
No one really seems to care about him.
fair enough. But there is a media craze, and Seymour's kind of caught up in it. He gets on the cover of Time. He's on television shows. They're on cover of other magazines. They get radio calls. There's contracts. And overwhelmed by the whole thing, Seymour kind of starts to feel guilty about what's going on here.
Yeah, he doesn't seem he wants to be famous. He just kind of wants to just be with Audrey and be away from all this stuff.
Yeah, and there's kind of something interesting here now, knowing about the arc of Rick Moranis himself, that
Mm-hmm.
I find interesting is that kind of mirrors what actually happened to him. If what you're saying is correct, I mean, caught up in
I'm pretty sure I'm right on it. Like the timeline of it, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Like his wife like either passed away or something happened and he had to go and like take care of his kids and he chose his family over fame.
yeah.
So,
Let's see.
decent human being all around.
I think um, the last thing that he's said to have been in is Brother Bear 2003. His long break, as it's called, it began in 1997. Um, yeah, long break from acting to dedicate his time to his two children as a widower. That's sad.
Yeah.
Poor old Morani. Oh,
Which really sucks cuz I think Rick Moranis is the ideal actor to play like the lovable loser in movies,
Yeah,
right?
and it would have been interesting to see him take on more roles in the recent remake craze. I think he would have been a nice fresh face because he's certainly talented, and it would have been, maybe this is just me, lovely to see a Honey I Shrunk the Kids remake with the new
Ooh,
special effects.
he'd be Honey, I Shrunk the Grandkids.
That'd be hilarious, actually. Though he's 67, he's still primed to do that at some point, and
That's
maybe if
true.
the kids are grown, he can come back. Rick Moranis, we're calling you. We're calling out
Your
to you.
country needs you.
Your country needs you. Please come back. But we'll move on. Obviously, there's a plea from Seymour for him and Audrey to get away. They decide they want to get married. You know.
And
Um,
go and live the nice 1950s suburban life.
yeah. Another interesting bit that I think I'll bring up a little later when we get to the director's cut and original cut of this film, as there are two different endings. That obviously causes a problem for the plant because the plant wants to be fed still. It's still hungies. And Seymour's finally over it. He packs a couple bags. He tries to tiptoe out of the store. But the plant is not having it.
Plant's still hungry.
Yeah.
Seymour's got to feed him something. Well, Seymour um, tells Audrey 2 that he ain't going to feed him no more. He's done. Audrey 2 is like, well, you're going to feed me something because, I'm a 12-foot tall, 400-pound plant with a singing voice of an angel. And Seymour's like, fine, I'll go get you some ground beef from the deli. I'll be right back. And then he leaves, and then Audrey takes matters into its own hand and calls up Audrey 1 across the street and reveals that he is this giant 12-foot tall talking plant with a golden voice. And Audrey 2 comes over to see, like, what the hell is this thing? And that is when chaos ensues when Audrey 2 tries to eat Audrey 1. And then
Yeah,
Seymour comes in.
this is, I think, an interesting note I had about the musical number right here. How close did we get to a very weird hentai? I mean, that was really weird.
Right there, man.
Right there for a
Right
second.
there.
That was a kind of weird for a minute. Um,
Uh,
I
because,
didn't
like,
want it to go
Audrey...
there either. That was a little too close for my taste.
Yeah, because Audrey 2 is just this weird, like, giant plant thing with all these vines, and they look, tentacly, and he's very flamboyant and handsy with people. And yeah, it got a little... it was a little sketch for a second there. But no, everything was above board on this one.
Yeah, we kept it PG, and instead we just have somebody being eaten by a intergalactic giant plant. Um,
The way God intended, yes.
yes. Seymour obviously comes back from getting the prime cut from down the street and walks in on this whole debacle and tries to pull Audrey out. And this is kind of where things start to differ.
Yeah.
In the original cut, this is where he pulls her out, and there's a bit of a fight scene between him and the plant. And the plant, in his power, I guess we'll call it, breaks free from the shackles of the pot to finally take over the world, as it's revealed that it's the master plan to put Audrey 2 in the household of every human in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But cracks under the pressure, quite literally, and the building collapses on top of him. And and I'm only saying it so quickly because it literally kind of happens this fast.
Yeah, like there's a big musical number called Mean Green Mother from Outer Space.
One of my favorites in the film, actually.
It's very good.
Yeah, pretty good.
There's some very good songs in this. When we get to the comparison part, we're going to have to, like, figure out best songs going on here.
It's going to be the deciding factor, yeah.
It really will be.
But out of the smoke and rubble comes Seymour, survives everything, and literally, there's just a last shot of Seymour and Audrey running into their new beautiful home together
Somewhere that's green.
somewhere that's green. And that's it.
But yeah,
That's the end
and
of
it's
that
like this.
cut.
Yeah, it's a really nice, like happy ending.
One for the
And then in
masses.
the
One for the masses.
one for the masses.
Quite
Hey,
literally.
apparently the original ending where Audrey dies and Audrey 2 takes over the world and all that stuff. Apparently that tested horribly.
Yeah, I can't imagine why. I mean, it's probably not great to go to a comedy and then just watch the world be eaten alive by plants in this kind of like nihilistic ending, even if it
Yeah.
is parody.
When we get to how much these movies cost, and we'll tell you the ending, the original ending where Audrey dies, that's where all the money went, and it didn't even get shown.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I didn't watch the director's cut. I'd be interested to know what the level of production is on it. Um,
Lots of production value. There's like giant. There's miniatures. There's like 4 different Audrey puppets. All the puppeteers. There's cars flying everywhere. There's explosions. There's a lot of a shtick going on in the new one,
yeah,
or in the original.
as a side note, I'm actually one more thing that I really liked about this movie is the Audrey 2 puppet was actually pretty impressive. Uh,
Oh yeah,
like even for today's standards, made me go, if this was a puppet now, I would be like, this kind of looks a little better than some CGI. I mean,
oh yeah.
the
That
lips are very animated, the movements are very fluid. Aside from maybe the vines, it's like, yeah, it was pretty good.
that's the thing. So the entire puppet was made by Jim Henson Studios.
Oh, okay.
Kermit the Frog, your
Yeah,
boy,
the puppet god.
the puppet. Yeah, puppet Jesus.
Yeah.
He made these puppets, but Audrey 2, I saw it was a 2-piece puppeteering set, and it took like 6 people to operate it.
Hmm.
And the whole song and dance numbers, like they puppeted that out. There's no CGI, there's no computer or anything like that. Like when Audrey is singing, there's a bunch of puppeteers listening to the music and then lip syncing it to this giant puppet.
Hmm.
And which is impressive because there's 2 guys working the mouth.
Oh,
So it's
really?
these 2 guys working in sequence to lip sync a giant thing to the voice of, I'm gonna say it like this man with a golden voice, to make it work, which is incredibly impressive. Like honestly, if you're gonna watch this movie, it's almost worth it just to see like how the puppet works.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth it anyways. And I mean, Jesus Christ, it's not even going to eat up a lot of your time. Like we said, it's a 90-minute runtime. Especially if you go watch that original. I mean, for real, it's only like, 65 minutes, but, or, 75 or something like that. But that really does wrap up this movie. I mean, aside from that, the both the endings, it's like they both kind of don't satisfy in different ways. One is just
Really?
Well, one is just like the happy tie the knot for the family kind of things because this isn't really like a scary movie by any sense. I know it's a quote unquote horror movie, but it's tongue in
Yeah,
cheek the whole time.
this
Um,
is a lot more in line with like a family. Like you can take your kids could watch this movie,
yeah,
right?
like on
And you can
there,
probably have
your
like
kids could
little
watch this
kids watch
movie
this.
without your parents too. I mean, it's pretty clean. It's pretty safe.
Yeah, you're none of your kids are gonna ask what a rim job is after watching this movie. Like it's not raunchy, it's not that dark.
What movies you've been watching?
Bruh, like, are you kidding me? Like, okay, my buddy, he's got 2 kids, and he was like, "Oh, I saw Palm Springs on Hulu. Like, can I'm probably gonna watch it." And I'm like, "Don't watch it with your kids, man.
Yeah,
Don't do it." And
yeah,
he was like, "Why not?" I'm like, "I don't want you to have to explain to your kids what a rim job is."
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, this next movie you might want to watch with your kids. You might want to watch it without your kids. You might want to watch
Yeah,
it alone in a dark room. Uh, but
yeah.
we
You
will.
will discover things about yourself in this next movie.
Oh, that's an understatement. We will get to that next movie right after this. Hey Dean, did you hear about my new podcast?
Nah, fool, what is it?
I started a podcast where I review different colors of custom paint and how fast they dry.
Well, that's cool, but
Are you gonna tune in?
I'll let you know what I think, but you should probably find something that doesn't suck and use Anchor.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free.
I like free.
It's a super easy way to record, edit, and distribute your podcast to platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, all without having to overcomplicate the process. You can even make money with no minimum listenership.
I like money.
And you'll make plenty of money if you have a better idea for a podcast. You have an idea for a podcast that's more exciting than watching paint dry? Then you should head over to Anchor.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we're back.
All right. Oh, took forever.
Yeah. Oof. Well, we're back with a weird one.
A very weird one.
I think the weirdest we've done so far. And we've done a few weird things.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force is a pretty weird movie.
Yeah, but you know what? This is the weird movie. That's what I will say. Of all the weird movies out there, this is the one that people turn to when they want to have a good old bizarre time.
Weird-ass time.
And for good reason. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, not Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is the height of queer cinema. It's from the mind of Richard O'Brien, who plays Riff Raff in this movie. He wrote the screenplay and originally did a lot of, like, this was apparently also from the stage, which, you know, being a musical is not out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta
also
stop the presses because I just looked up Richard O'Brien on Wikipedia and saw that he worked on Phineas and Ferb, and I need to know what he did.
You need to know this now?
Yeah. This might get cut from the episode, but I'm sitting here like, what did he voice in Phineas and Ferb?
Could you imagine he's Perry the Platypus? He's Perry the Platypus's singing voice.
Yeah. Hold on.
But yeah.
It's a Crystal Maze. He did
There's-
Mamma Mia.
I don't know, this movie's kind of cool. Also, Richard O'Brien is like ultra multi-talented in this movie because he also sings the opening song.
Yeah, he's the famous opening lips of the movie.
Well, the opening lips are actually from the lady who plays Magenta. The singing voice is Richard O'Brien.
Oh, well, produce it
I guess
however
his
you
lips
can.
didn't look good in lipstick.
You never know. I mean, hey, the underground drag queen scene always seeks to flip things on their head.
Seeks to amaze. Yeah.
Particularly interesting to me because I've been fascinated with this particular subject lately. Do you know who Nelson Sullivan is?
No. I
was
was gonna lie and say I did, but I don't.
He's this you could call it, quote, documentarian, unquote, from New York in the late 70s, early 80s. Well, I guess into the late 80s as well. But he was kind of like the prototypical vlogger before vlogging, right? What he did was he moved to New York from Atlanta in the early 70s seeking to create, like, his own Great Expectations. And sooner or later, he found that turning on a video camera and just showing his life in New York would be more, it would be easier for him to describe. And he's a very big fixture in the club scene of the 80s, you know, RuPaul and the drag queens of that era. So it's been kind of interesting for me all week to watch this movie and have it juxtapose on what it's actually based on. Though obviously that era was after, you know, this. It's very interesting to look at how, like, a queer lifestyle and queer cinema is represented in this movie, especially because it gave me a new lens for watching the characters in this, because I probably didn't realize this before because, you know, uber straight guy, but I kind of feel like let me click back to the cast here so I can get the names right. But I kind of feel like Brad Major's story is from the get go one of a guy who's afraid to come out and as tries to marry Janet so that he can look good for people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like Brad's character arc is like he's coming to terms with like being gay cuz he doesn't seem like he really wants to like be with Janet. It's more like he's just like he's with Janet because he has to be with Janet, and then Janet is like having a whole like sexual awakening during this.
Yeah, it's I don't know why I was always aware kind of the Janet sexual awakening thing. Obviously, the classic number "Touch Me" is very apparent in making that known. But
Every straight guy's favorite song in this movie, we know.
yeah, but it didn't really dawn on me until I rewatching that opening scene where to dive into the plot anyway, the opening scene where they're at the wedding after the lips, and the bouquet is thrown. Janet catches the bouquet, and now it's up to Brad to answer the call with a proposal. But he's kind of scratching his
Dragging his feet on it?
yeah, and then obviously it breaks into the number, um, the famous number "Damn It, Janet." Uh, I believe that's the one right there, right? That's the
Yeah, damn
yeah.
it, Janet, I
Okay.
love you.
Um,
And during this, he's making an effort. I love you,
very
and
yeah,
Janet is like, I'm mad about you, but Brad makes the most lackluster like walk to the altar. He is yeah, like that song is like it's a good song, but you can tell like how the actor portrays Brad in that moment. He is, kind of dragging his feet along with this one, which is kind of interesting. Kind of interesting.
yeah. But they obviously, they're fiance and fiance now. There's not really a, feminine or even though there's that extra e. And they decide to get away together, but driving down a dark and
Rainy country road.
yeah, dark and stormy night, they come upon a flat tire, and Brad has to get out to walk back to this castle, as he calls it, that he saw a few miles back, and Janet decides to walk with him. And there's a joke made that if she doesn't go, there could be a beautiful woman there, and he may never come back. But well, they almost never come back, as
It's
what
true.
happens next will shock you. Um,
Also, there's a whole musical number when they do get to the manor of there's a light at the Frankenstein place,
yeah,
and it's a whole like 5 minute song about there being a light on at the house. What is that about?
I don't know.
Were they
I mean,
filling time?
I didn't particularly for both of these movies didn't particularly pay attention to the significance of the lyrics to the story, though it would be important to study those. And especially for this one, I would find that there might be some metaphorical significance to the songs, and maybe there's something maybe, and this is just like my 2 cents based on a spur of the moment analysis of it, but could be something to do with the fact that the castle represents like this diving into the darkness that is taboo, sexual
Mm-hmm.
taboo and societal taboo when it comes to gender. And maybe that light is supposed to be like, well, it's in the back of your mind, it's always there, so why don't you dive in and try and explore it?
Hmm.
Because it is kind of like that first welcoming into the weirdness that is transsexual Transylvania. Um,
Yes.
and obviously, then they are welcomed by Richard O'Brien at the door, riff raff.
Also, Riff Raff in this movie looks like he just finished a heroin binge and took like just a hit of speed to like wake himself up to get to the door. Because I don't know what the makeup crew did to Richard O'Brien, but he looks rough, and it's great.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's obviously like a parody on like the Igor um,
Mhm.
of Frankenstein, but another interesting bit, by the way, to call back to it, found out who he played on Phineas and Ferb, plays Lawrence Fletcher, the father of Ferb.
Really?
Yeah, which is such like a tame, nothing interesting.
Good. Badass. All right, that's a range right there.
Yeah, I mean, sure. On the range-o-meter we often come back to in this show, that's some range.
That's some range.
Yeah. Whereas I would say Rick Moranis, very little range.
He's damn fine in that
Yeah,
range,
it
but
peaks
that range
high,
doesn't
but
spring. Yeah.
yeah. But to move on, they're obviously welcomed in, and they need to use the telephone. But Riff Raff, this is another interesting thing you'll find about this movie is that everything is just thrown out the window at a certain point.
Yeah, like they come in and then it's just musical number, musical number, musical number, and it kind of there's a plot going on, but we could probably burn through that whole plot in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's very tangenty.
Yeah,
Labyrinth is how I would describe this movie.
I
Um,
mean, granted, we get probably the most famous song in the movie once Brad and Janet like actually enter into the house and go to the like the ballroom or whatever, and that's the time warp, right?
yeah,
That's the most iconic song in this movie.
I mean this song is it transcends the movie. I would say. I mean everybody knows this song.
Yeah,
You jump to the left, you take a step to the right. Uh,
hands on your hips, knees in tight.
exactly. And I would be interested to know just how popular this song is. Like if it's what the Billboard chart was, if there was ever like platinum or gold status to a single. Like what? I don't know. I mean,
Cause well, this movie they released the soundtrack,
yeah.
I believe, like right after or something like that. I can't imagine the song did poorly.
No, I mean it was like I would say it's culturally significant at this point.
Yeah.
Um, but we get that musical number, which honestly comes out of nowhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the other thing I'd love to know about it in that sense is I'd like to know where the ideas come from because I know that Richard O'Brien is trying to do this whole
Homage
well,
thing.
yeah, homage, but like nothing makes sense. Also, everything is supposed to be a little nonsensical because it's calling into attention just ripping
The
apart.
ridiculousness of those old B movie
Yeah,
shtick
it's
stuff.
counterculture in its purest form, and that in the late '70s, early '80s, of which the costume designer for this film has said influenced early punk movements. Um, is
You can see that in a lot of the I guess the extras, the weird leather jackets, the weird glasses and
Yeah,
all that
it
stuff.
reminds me a lot of like the B-52s, which my mom was a big fan of. Like the rockabilly bebop is very popular amongst early punk and bands like X. Um, and it's just interesting to see. Like, I would be interested to know where the chain of logic, if there is one, it could just be a whole lot of fun, is in creating the song Time Warp while also trying to just say something about all of this.
Well, funny you should say that.
Oh,
The Time Warp was a song used to fill space in the movie. That was the literal expressed like opinion Richard O'Brien had for the Time Warp. He's like, we needed to hit 90 minutes, so I wrote a song to do it.
interesting.
There's I think there's like a few songs in here that are like that, and the Time Warp's one of them.
Well, that literally makes sense because it's a literal time warp. Okay, that answers my fucking question. And
Yeah.
little
Well,
D,
the original play this is based on only ran for like 45 minutes.
yeah, that's.
The whole original play was only 45 minutes long, and this is double that
I'd
length.
love to go
So,
see this done on the stage. It would be really interesting and fun. I think.
right?
Yeah. Anyway, so we get this wonderful rock and roll number, and then we move on again. Um,
They're just like, okay, Brad and Janet, we're gonna show
yeah,
you something in the laboratory. So they strip them naked
yeah.
down to their underwear.
Yeah, I was sitting here kind of trying to remember what happens next because it's literally just kind of jumping from place to place. But Yeah, Dean has it right. They are shown to the laboratory, and why don't you take it from there, sir?
So they strip Brad and Janet naked because they're all wet and they don't want their clothes to wet up the floor. So they're stripped down to their underwear, which Brad and Janet have basically no objection to.
Yeah.
And then they're taken to the laboratory, where we have Dr. Frankenfurter, played by Tim Curry. Also, Tim Curry in this movie
Iconic.
is another level.
Yeah.
The man's on another level of, like, camp in this film.
Speaking of cartoon voices, that's Nigel Thornberry, and I can never stop thinking about it.
It will never, like, you'll never look at him the same way again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim Curry does the whole, like, sweet transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania, that whole number as his introductory number. And, corset and, pantyhose. And he's like, okay, we're at the laboratory, and I'm going to make a man. He's gonna make... Okay. The whole point of this is that Frankenfurter is making himself a obedient sex god slave thing.
Yeah.
With science. So it's not illegal. And he makes Rocky, which is this, blonde-haired, like, ripped Adonis. And Rocky is just not cool with this. It gets really weird. There's like 4 musical numbers in that one scene, because that's also where we get Meatloaf. Also,
Yeah.
Meatloaf.
Just the weirdest
Cameo.
Yeah, I guess if that's what you could call it. It just kind of like happens and then it's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
like some other
Eddie
things
the Delivery Boy.
Yeah, like some other things that happened in Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, we get Steve Martin and then he's gone. We get John Candy, then he's gone. I mean,
Yeah, well, John Candy in that movie is a cameo, and Steve Martin in that movie, like, he's part of the plot, but, like, not really. Well, he is part of the plot. He's the first kill and all that stuff with Audrey.
And all that. But...
Yeah, but, like, in this, it's like Eddie, the delivery boy, the Meatloaf on his motorcycle, comes out and he starts singing Cutie Patootie.
Yeah.
Bless My Soul, which that song is a banger. All right, I love that song. That song's great. And he, disrupts the whole ordeal. He's, going crazy. Apparently, they took half of his brain and put it into Rocky. They didn't take the whole thing, just half of it.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Frankenfurter, Tim Curry, kills Eddie in the freezer with a pickaxe, and then goes back to just finishing the song. And Brad and Janet are just like, well, that was fucking weird.
Yeah, I think the underlying point is just that it's Frankenfurter is not one to be
upstaged.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want the spotlight stolen from him, and that's will become very apparent later. But and if anything is the larger B story to all of this, it's if anything, I'm more focused on what's going on with Frankenfurter in the house than Janet and Brad.
Yeah.
But yeah, doesn't like being upstaged, so he gets rid of Meatloaf, and Meatloaf is gone in an instant. Gone in the blink of an eye.
In the blink of an eye. He lasts the whole song. And dance number.
Yeah. Wow.
Which reminds
also
me,
the coolest thing in the film is riding a motorcycle all over the laboratory.
Yeah. Also, like, is it just me or, like, Meatloaf should probably have been in more musicals back in the 80s, right? I mean, I don't know when his voice went out, but, like, he's got some chops and he's pretty charismatic. Like, I wouldn't have minded seeing him in more stuff.
It would have been nice, but it's also a very particular thing to be in and then build a career off of. I mean, aside from obviously Susan Sarandon is a superstar and Curry is a superstar.
This was actually Curry's first movie.
Yeah, it's like, how many movies did all the other people do after this?
That's true.
The players weren't. Not to say that any of them may or may not have. I know the guy that plays Peter Hinwood, who plays the Golden
Rocky.
Man. He chose
also,
not to do anything else.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Also, to make a point, I almost forgot. So Rocky, when he's taken, when they take the bandages off him and they reveal him, he's wearing, like, Ric Flair like wrestling trunks. He's wearing like the golden
Yeah,
speedo and the golden like boots and stuff.
yeah,
He looks like a pro wrestler.
very interesting. Um,
Yeah,
the costuming in this movie is just like
something
something
else.
else. But
Yeah,
um, we move on from there. Janet and Brad are shuffled into the elevator to go to their rooms.
they get sent off into two separate rooms, and the staff are spying on them, and that's when Dr. Frankenfurter just
Has his way.
attempts to has his way. So he goes in, he makes a pass, he disguises himself as Brad first, and then goes into Janet's room and tries to get down and dirty with her, and then she discovers like, oh wait, you're Frankenfurter. No, you vile fiend. But I mean, you're here anyway, why not get some D?
Yeah,
And then they're like, he comes in and tries to like rape him, and then they're just kind of like totally cool with it. They're just like, oh let's do
yeah.
this.
Part of me was
And then he
sitting
does the
there.
same thing to Brad when he comes in dressed as Janet, and same exact thing, almost like beat for beat, the same conversation, and they just like, yeah, whatever, like let's do this. You can suck it down. We're good. And it's yeah,
Yeah, part of me was sitting there through that point being like, wow, if this was to be viewed today, this would be pretty close to like what people would define as like right? But then part of me was sitting there like, well, it's a joke, first of all. I mean, that's really what, at boiling it down, this is what this sequence is. It's a joke. But also, this is a ridiculous movie, and I feel like no fan of Rocky Horror, even if they acknowledge it, that it's quote unquote problematic, gives a shit about what this actually is.
yeah.
Because these are aliens, by the way.
There's some weird shit going on.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where you think about like at the time it's on color, like, or not to say it's on color, but it's excusable because it's the fun of the time. That's how they got their laughs. But nowadays,
Yeah.
if something like this was to happen, people would have, you know, shit fits about it. But or I don't know. I mean, you never know. But either way,
I
we
mean,
we finally learned that Brad is truly a little curious.
oh yes.
And this is where his story starts to go sparkly.
Yes.
Um,
And around this time, this is when they also have their weird dinner scene when Dr. Scott, a FBI person doctor thing, comes in on his magic wheelchair to dinner.
what a weird character.
Weird fucking
As if
character.
that's out of the ordinary. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So they all sit down for a nice turkey dinner together. Just one slab of turkey, nothing else.
Yep.
And
This dinner scene reminds me of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with just how like weird and like awkward and like you're not sure if Frankenfurter's gonna kill somebody.
yeah, he's obviously his temper has starting to boil over after killing Meatloaf, and um, there are elements of like that parodying a murder mystery in the mansion, calling back to Murder by Death. It felt like that kind of dinner where you didn't know who was
Yeah.
going to die next. Um, trying to think again of where it goes from here.
Well, they have a musical number
Yes.
because if you didn't know, this is a musical.
Right? There's another
And
musical.
then Frankenfurter reveals Eddie's body is in a glass case underneath the tablecloth that they've been eating on.
Hmm.
And then they chase them down into, or then they go down into the
Right.
laboratory, and then they get turned into statues.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's kind of where we go into the final act of the movie.
Yeah, again, so weird that it's like already it's kind of at the end of its rope. Um, it's just fascinating, like to think about the nonsensical way this movie progresses, but you try and look for so much meaning in it. Though I can't remember exactly, but I think there's a literal point where the movie states, "Don't try to search for meaning in all this." Um, but
It had the rubber out on that one.
yeah. There's something you could say something interesting about them being turned into statues, and then obviously they're all breaking into these numbers where they're revealing their desires and hopes and dreams, yet they don't want to pursue them. Brad, of particular, is feeling some kind of way, but doesn't want to engage those feelings out of fear of disappointing mommy. Yeah, it's interesting.
Also, when they come out of being statues and they're all in that getup or whatever on the giant weird theater
Yeah,
stage, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this isn't a French New Wave movie somewhere. I fucking know it. This is
yeah, that's
too
also true.
weird to be American.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, though I haven't seen it, some imagery that I would find in Hiroshima Mon Amour. Um, but I could also be wrong. I haven't really seen. I just know some of the imagery of that movie. But we move along. The musical number happens, and it turns into a whole Frankenfurter show. Um,
Like it does.
he does
We're
this literally RKO radio style uh, musical number with the set and the pool and the synchronized swimming. Kind of, it's not really synchronized.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's like, and Frankfurt reveals his plan is to basically make everyone into like sex crazed, like transsexual maniacs.
yeah, which is another interesting thing to try and search for meaning in, because while I was watching it, I was sitting there wondering, is this kind of what O'Brien was trying to say about queer culture back then, or what people perceived as queer culture, and that they thought they were all like sexual deviants when really they were just people trying to feel what they felt, and then like the
I
aliens are trying to suppress him. I don't know. I don't know.
I have no
I really
idea.
don't know.
I don't know if this is real meaning or if this was like, dude, I did a bunch of blow like yesterday and I wrote a musical in a night, dude. Check this shit out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna research a little bit more because I'd be interested to know to what level O'Brien was trying to make a statement. But
Mm.
yes, then Riff Raff comes out as the new leader um, in his
Yep,
whole.
Riff Raff and Magenta
ver-
want to go back to transsexual
Yeah, the
in the galaxy of Transylvania.
very funny plan words, I thought, and the very cool costumes too. Very kind of reminded me of Dragon Ball Z. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, with the giant shoulder pads.
Yeah. But they have this interesting looking little laser gun, capable of disintegrating people, whatever they said, the science, the,
Science mumbo
yeah,
jumbo.
science mumbo jumbo is actually a perfect way to describe this whole next sequence because the lasers are shot at Frankenfurter and he is killed. Um,
He is Kaputnik.
yeah. And this obviously sends Rocky into a hysteria, I guess you could call it, in which they make a very clear homage to um, King
King
Kong.
Kong.
They do it a couple times. They mention people like Fay Ray. Um, he climbs up the RKO tower. The lasers continue to bounce off Frankenfurter's back, and finally, they fall into the pool and meet their demise.
And yep, Rocky has died in the picture show. And then after that, Scott and Brad and Janet are talking to Riff Raff and Magenta, and they're Riff Raff and Magenta are like, "Oh, you guys can leave. Like we're cool. We're just gonna go home. We're gonna take the whole house with us too. So
Yeah.
have a good one. Tip your waitress. See you soon."
And they escape, and the house gets shot back up into space. And
And yeah,
that's kind of it. Just nothing left for Brad and Janet. They're just kind of bye bye.
yeah. The fuck happened there?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we get one last look at the pseudo narrator of the film in the form of Charles Gray, the criminologist,
The mm-hmm.
and then the film
Oh,
closes.
almost forgot for people who haven't seen this. So throughout the movie, there's this cut in of this staunch British investigator
Yeah,
guy that just kind of talks about the plot a little bit, but he doesn't really explain what's going on at all. I don't know. He was just kind of there to like help end scenes and transition stuff. That's basically what his purpose served in the movie. So,
Yeah, it's kind of
but yeah,
it's supposed to play in the whole, um, you know, the Twilight Zone narrator is going to introduce what's going on, kind of thing. Um, not a whole lot of substance in it. Though, you know,
you need
I very much
substance.
enjoyed his participation in the time warp.
Oh, where he gets on top of the table.
Yeah. um,
It's good.
but yeah, that's pretty much where we're left with all of this. A romp and a riot, and
Oh, we almost forgot. We needed to do your favorite part of this podcast on both these movies. Your deleted scenes, man. Come
oh my
on.
god,
We didn't do it for either of them.
yeah, I guess I really am out of it. Well, deleted
You did a
scenes,
bunch of blow before this.
exactly.
Used to be about the music.
Had to in order to understand what was going on here. Deleted scenes for Little Shop of Horrors.
We come on.
Oh no, I know what I want to see.
There's an easy one. Okay, what do
I
you
don't know
got?
if it's the one you're thinking of, but I really want to see the group of masochists that Bill Murray goes back to, and whoever the next one is. Maybe he sends along a young Eddie Murphy. Uh, maybe he sends along a young Chevy Chase to get thrilled into pain by Oren.
Oh, that'd be good. He's in like a dentist masochist support group
Yeah.
where they all just trade numbers. Ugh.
What was the one you were thinking of? Was that?
So, the one I was thinking of was when Seymour goes into the radio station. We see him next to like three people. One of them's the the dwarf with the statue of a nun and a saxophone. There's an old lady with a box chained up, and there's this old gentleman in some kind of contraption
Hmm.
that I don't know is either a time machine or a way to achieve flight, but I want that man's movie.
Hmm.
That man has lived an interesting life, and I want to see that movie.
You know, I don't remember that bit, but I'd have to go back and see it. I'm gonna have to go back and
Oh,
look at that. But I like it.
it's gonna be good.
Um, Deleted scenes for Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, this is another movie where it's the whole thing's a deleted scene. Maybe a good deleted scene that we might be able to get is we want to know where Meatloaf's life is. Where did he go? Where did he come from? You know?
Oh, I want to know what was that party like before Brad and Janet showed up.
That's
Was
true.
it like a couple of the bikers showed up and they were just like trying to make small talk with like Columbia
Yeah.
and Magenta?
The biker
But it's like,
thing.
hey, what's going on?
I feel like the biker thing was like a subtle call to like the sadomasochist scene of New York and like other cities like San Francisco, where obviously they're the leather bars.
Yeah.
But I don't really understand other than that what the bikers would be doing because again, it's kind of just in and out with the whole Eddie thing. Um, Maybe I would also like to see the galaxy and world of transsexual Transylvania. I mean, what a weird
Oh
place.
my God, that would be insanity.
Yeah,
It'd be so camp.
space opera.
Actual space opera.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I guess with that we gotta figure out which is better.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm torn on these. I mean, if I had to go strictly on like which movie I liked better, I enjoyed Little Shop of Horrors. I think a little more because it made a little bit more sense, and it
Yeah.
had some funny bits, and I recognized some more of the actors. I think I paid attention and enjoyed a little bit more of it. However, I think the music in Rocky Horror Picture Show is better and more timeless and obviously more culturally significant. So I'm
Mm.
kind of caught between those. But if I guess I had to grade it on that criteria, if we're talking about these sort of like horror comedy musicals,
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's
Mm.
the better musical, I think. Um, the songs obviously being more prolific, and that with a very honorable nod to Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, I'm almost in the opposite camp on that one.
yeah,
Camp. Well, because Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think, is a good musical number, or like good musical.
yeah.
Not a lot of plot.
No,
It's just almost not at all. It's just there to like get the songs going.
yeah,
That's really all that plot's there for, and the songs are good. Like I think there's like 2 or 3 songs in there that are a little like whatever.
hmm.
But overall, like there's a lot of good songs in there. Little Shop of Horrors, I'm on the camp where it's a better movie overall, and I think I don't think there's any songs in there that are bad,
Yeah,
but I also think, granted, the songs that are like reaching the heights of like awesome, like just fun songs, like there's a few less than Rocky Horror, but like there's still great songs in that movie. So I'd probably lean more to Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know. Let's try and come to the middle here. We got to get a debate going on this one.
yeah. I mean,
Why you want to hold up Rocky Horror, and why do I want to hold up Little Shop?
I think it's just that when I watch Rocky Horror as a film guy, I was watching it under that lens, and that's kind of enjoyable for me on a personal level. That I just like the filmmaking of it. It does it. It's supposed to parody camp, but it's actually not that bad. Looking at the production actually value I think is actually fairly high. The costume,
Oh, we almost forgot. So you actually looked up the budgets for this one before I did.
yeah. So
So
I know the budgets. I know that Rocky Horror was only done for like 1.2 or something like that, whereas the Little Shop of Horrors was 15 million, I believe.
Mhm.
Obviously, as we said, mostly going to that original ending.
Actually, Little Shop was 25 million.
25 million budget.
25 million budget. It was the most expensive movie Warner Brothers had made at the time.
Interesting. That's also
Yeah,
kind
not
of
adjusted for
sad.
inflation, obviously. Huh?
That's kind of sad that this was.
Really?
I mean, it's not that. There's not a whole lot into the production of that movie, though. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of the productions, like, I think the sets were giving a little, we're not giving as much credit to it because, like the whole street and all that stuff, because it looks really good.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing with Little Shop. Nothing in the movie looks bad. Everything just looks like it's supposed to look, which is to look kind of cheap and kind of funny. And also, you got to think about it. How much money did it take to make Audrey? Because there's like 4 of those
that's
planes.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
So puppeteers got paid fat, I guess, but
Fake fucking fat money,
yeah.
dude. Jim Henson sits on a puppet altar of
Oh
gold.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure that even the Henson estate is nothing to shake your fist at either. But
He's got Kermit the Frog.
yeah.
Puppeteery Jesus.
Well, either way, let's. I mean, what are the? Let's look at those box offices. That's actually something I don't know about. So
You don't know?
no.
Okay. So, we'll start with Little Shop of Horrors on that one. So, at a $25 million budget, and I'll let you know right away, it did make its budget back.
Okay.
So, you don't have to argue, flop, hit, whatever. So, it did make its budget back. How much do you think it made in its cumulative worldwide gross?
This movie is not like a cultural phenomenon. I'll give it that. Right. It's not. It's not
Yeah.
like Rocky Horror where it's like huge. Like you
Yeah.
say the title and everybody knows what that is.
Little
So
Shop of Horrors is one of those where it's like it's a cult classic of cult classics kind of
yeah,
thing,
I'm gonna have
where
to say
not too many people see it.
40 million. Not quite double the budget, but close.
On the money, $40 million on the money, sir. You're getting good at this.
Okay, that
Yeah,
was a
25.
wild guess. Honestly, I didn't know. I just didn't know how popular it would have been in 1986. These are huge stars, but it also can, being a musical about something weird. I know it probably didn't attract a huge audience at first.
Then you got to think about it. The name value on this movie is Rick Moranis, Steve Martin, and that's about it in terms of like big names. Because you have
But
like
Frank,
John
I mean,
Candy
Frank
and Bill Murray
Oz,
as like, yeah.
Frank Oz might have been at that point. I think he had done. I think I looked it up. The Dark Crystal was his movie before this.
Oh
I
yeah,
believe
another.
it was his movie before this. Filmography being, he did the Muppet movie, big. Um,
Okay.
he did things in The Blues Brothers and Empire Strikes Back. Um, he did.
Well, so like film people would have probably like wanted to go see this because of him, but like
Yeah,
Jane and Joe America, like they're gonna go see, it. Like honestly, they probably saw Rick Moranis, Steve Martin here, and thought it was gonna be a fun like family musical.
oh, he did The Muppets Take
Which,
Manhattan, so obviously
oh, okay,
he's
that's a
huge. Yeah.
masterpiece. Goddamn masterpiece.
Yeah.
I'm not even being facetious on that one. That movie's great.
Yeah. I think I have that on like double featured DVD somewhere.
That's the next double feature.
Yeah.
Come on.
Um,
Okay, and then we have Rocky Horror.
right. So this one super low budget, but
Super low budget.
I don't know. There was a story that my grandma told me the other day about. She was offered to be taken to this movie back when it first came out. She was kind of like, I don't really want to see it. But they got to the theater. It looked like there were some weird people out front, so they were like, we're gonna skip this one. Um, so part of me is
Also,
wondering about this popularity at the time. Uh,
well, I'll let you know this.
hmm.
Contrary to popular belief, this movie was not a flop.
Yeah, I guess I didn't expect it to be a flop.
Hmm.
Maybe one of those movies that like is weird at first to people, but then once people see it, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty cool." Um, I'm gonna say 10 million.
That's your final answer?
Should I make it not my final answer?
I mean, if you wanna change it up, I'll give you the option.
It's been around forever. 15 million.
Final answer?
Sure. I don't know. I'm probably off.
$113 million. This movie made a shit ton of money.
That's that's a lot of percentage increase over the
Yep.
budget.
Well, the big reason was because this was the midnight movie for like 10 fucking
Yeah, and it's
years.
still making money now that I think about it too.
Yeah.
I mean that number is not concrete. It is going up as we speak.
Yeah, because like when the movie came out, like it wasn't like uber popular, but it had cult status immediately.
Yeah.
And it when it came out, it made almost no money for like the first like month, and then all the theaters were like, okay, we're gonna show it at midnight, and all the people who were like film people or whatever, they could go see this, and no one would like judge them because it's fucking midnight, and they go see it, and it was like huge box office turn up after that. I mean, at opening weekend it was a flop, but in its initial run, it made its money back.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good because Richard Bryan was able to go off and do a few other projects. Um, most
Tim Curry, we know, did a bunch of stuff,
Yeah, it
so
was
this is
huge after
random.
this, and I'd be interested to watch a few more of his things and learn more about Richard O'Brien. And well, I'm glad we watched this. It was really fun.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
I guess that brings us to the end of the picture show.
well, we haven't decided yet which one is the true better film.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this? What's your number 1 song out of Rocky Horror?
Well,
Number 1
Time
song.
Warp. It's a classic.
Time Warp's your like that's the best song in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Your personal opinion, Time Warp is it?
Yeah. I just like the story
Come on.
behind it too. So
Okay. Now, I'm saying that God, it's kind of hard. So it's either Mean Green Mother or Suddenly Seymour. So honestly, I like Suddenly Seymour because I'm a sentimental fuck. So like that song is great.
yeah, I like Mean Green Mother. I think it was more that to the fact that I liked the singing of it rather than the actual songs. You know.
Yeah.
So I still gotta go with Rocky Horror.
Still gotta go with Rocky
Yeah.
Horror. I don't. I don't know. I feel like I'm the one who's just being stubborn at this point because I
Ah,
think more people would probably. Well, which one would you recommend to somebody? Because
Rocky
I'd
Horror
almost want to
still.
recommend. Still?
Because not a lot of people, I feel like, with every passing generation, there are people who haven't seen this, and I think keeping it alive is such a nice thing for moviegoers to be able to go
Mhm.
back and always discover this. And I'm wondering to what extent it's because I think I saw the midnight showing in like 2015 or 2016, and there were hundreds of people there. I mean, it was packed out. Um, so I want to know how popular it still is, and I'm sure it's either still wildly popular or dwindling. But I really hope that we continue to keep this alive because it's such a fun, weird thing, and that's I think the point of all of this is that it's fun. That it's at the end of the day. So I would I
Yeah.
would recommend it solely on the recommendation of going and seeing it live, which obviously we can't do right now. But if you want a quarantine suggestion, watch Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah. I think that's probably it. Like if you're gonna watch one of these at home, like Rocky Horror gets levels better when you have like a group of people. If you're gonna watch it with like 10 buddies who've seen it before, you're gonna have a really good time. But if you're just looking to hang out and kill an afternoon with somebody, Little Shop of Horrors is gonna be a little bit more fun of a ride.
That's true.
All right. Well, I guess we've come to some sort of compromise on this
I
one.
think so. But
All right.
that does bring us to our wonderfully, uh, what would you call that? Crescendous climax to the picture show.
I mean, yeah, like to play on words.
The violins have stoked, the horns have honked, the vocal cords have belted, and people are filing out of the music hall. But we had a lot of fun. Dean, why don't you tell them where to subscribe to us, where to find us on social media, all that.
Well, you can come and find us on Instagram. We're the double feature underscore podcast on Instagram. We also are on Anchor FM. You can find us there. Same thing, double feature podcast. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, which is David. What is it again?
In the Frame.
Yep, you can find us all there. We're also on Spotify, Google Podcasts. You had to listen to us one of these ways, so subscribe to us. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
We swear we'll get better.
Yeah. So that when you subscribe to us, what are we going to be giving them next week?
When you subscribe to us, next week we're going to be giving you the new episode. And it's going to be the Terry Gilliam Funhouse.
Yes.
Legendary director, the American Python. We're going to be watching 12 Monkeys and Time Bandits.
Yes.
His 2 time travel films.
Another weird director for you so that we can keep the unorthodox cinema going. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun month overall next month, so we hope you stick along with us. Dean, it's been fun, and I will see you next episode.
I'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.